Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G. Flex.
Oh, yes. We are live. This is the Flex Network. I'm trying legit to make everything work fine this cast. Okay. I got the intro that I feel like went okay. I've got I've got the chords feeling like they're okay as well. I feel like today is the day. This is surprise Sunday. We got a lot that we're going to talk about today. One being Russell Wilson. Is he staying? Is he going? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. And why wouldn't I know? I'm from Seattle. We might think that we got it all as homers, but we really don't. We don't have all the inside knowledge. Last year, although I was preaching percent, I was figuring, everybody else was talking about Rashad Penny, and that was great, and all the fantasy analysts were saying, hey, pick up Penny in the, in the 5th round and wait until you get to about the 9th or 10th round and pick up Carson. But here I was saying, well, how does that make sense? Chris Carson was the lead back, and it was everywhere all over Seattle local media, but yet none of the fantasy analysts or anybody else had Chris Carson going as your top guy. And so we did. I mean, we totally knew it. And by we, on the other side of the glass, wait a second, Michael. Wait, this is Michael, but do you or do you not enjoy the new flashing lights that I got going on in the background here?
I mean, they're pretty good, but I feel like I'm about to have a seizure, possibly 2. I like the vibe.
You're about to have a seizure?
Possibly 2.
Possibly 2 full seizures.
Yeah.
Okay, will you give me a second here, and I'll lead us in though. But let's talk about Russell Wilson. What do you know that's going on? He gave a deadline of tomorrow to get a deal done. Let's start there. Do you think a deal's getting done by tomorrow? Yes or no?
I do think that a deal is getting done. This all started probably about 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago, reports came out that Russell Wilson's camp gave the Seahawks / John Schneider a end date of April 15th. And a lot of people were kind of like, whoa, why would he only give 2 weeks? And then another report surfaced that, oh, no. He gave this deadline like way back in January. Like he wanted this deal to be done by the time like all the offseason stuff started, like before the draft, all that type of stuff. He wanted all these things to get done. My opinion at first was like, oh, man, I don't know if it's going to get done. And then reports were like, oh, they're not even talking. And then just over the last, 3 or 4 days, I've been seeing tweets and articles and stuff coming up. And one of the first articles I saw was like, oh, they feel like Russell Wilson wants to play somewhere else. And even though he won't admit it or, things like that. I don't know if he would ever admit it or not, but the deal is I think he goes where he can get the contract and has the best chance to win. What we know about Russell Wilson is we know that Russell Wilson's a winner. He wants to win. He wants to bring championships to whatever city he's playing for. So if that's Seattle, which I think he wants to be here, but at the end of the day, it's a business. Players care about guaranteed money. They care about you can sign me for X amount of dollars, but are you going to front load my contract? Are you going to back load my contract? What are you going to do? Like, I don't want to play 2 years on a 6-year contract, and then my last 4 years, I'm getting basically nothing. He wants to feel valued just like every other player does, especially at the quarterback position as a franchise quarterback. So I think a deal gets done. I'm actually of the opinion right now that the deal is already done. It just isn't public information yet. So we will see what happens come tomorrow
You
morning.
think tomorrow, we'll wake up to a deal being finalized between Russell and the organization?
I think that you will wake up to a deal because you wake up at God knows when, but I start work at 7 a.m. Central Time, so that's about 5 a.m. your time. I think by the time it gets about 10 my time, or maybe even 9 a.m. my time, we'll start seeing things. I believe that we will.
Okay. Well, I mean, and that sounds great and phenomenal. And, Russell is a great guy. It kind of, to me, seems like Russell, is a homer guy. I mean, it seems like he's always been pro Seattle. He wants to stay in Seattle. He loves Seattle. When we, meaning, my family, go to nice restaurants in Seattle, we always hear about how Russell really enjoys coming here, and it just seems like he's such a nice guy and he doesn't want to leave. But you look at Kirk Cousins getting fully guaranteed contracts. Is that something that you think Russell's going to get? A fully guaranteed contract? Maybe.
No, I don't think fully guaranteed. I think the guarantees will be a little bit higher than your typical contract. I think he's looking for the guarantees be either spread out. Um, well, not either, but I think he wants them to be spread out because the Seahawks do this thing where they traditionally don't pay you a lot of guaranteed money in the second year of your contract. They haven't done it since I was reading something online. They haven't done it since Percy Harvin was on the team. And the reason for that is because they were burned by Percy Harvin because he couldn't stay healthy, and then he was fighting in the locker room, and they ended up trading him to, who would they trade him to? Buffalo or something.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, they just they're doing that, and so we'll see what happens. I think that's the hang up, or else we would have seen stuff done already. So
Well, as far as Russell, what's kind of crazy is I feel like people in Seattle, the real homers are the real homers, but I think really pretty decently hardcore fans look at Russell Wilson and they say, Russell went Hollywood, baby. He's a different person now than he was when we went out and got that Super Bowl. You see his name so much more in the bright lights in the big cities. Actually, not too long ago, we actually, or I saw a picture surfacing on the internet where he was out in Mexico with Sierra or whatever, and he was just having fun, and he had his shirt off. And one of the guys that I actually know, that's a pretty hardcore football fan, he was saying, that doesn't look like the body of a quarterback wanting $100+ million a year. And, I don't know what a body, I really couldn't tell you what, if Aaron Rodgers is shredded or not, you know what I mean? I mean, if they have the arm strength and the arm talent, then what's it matter what their body looks like? Can Russell still outrun a freaking, a sloth? Yes, he definitely can. Can he still outrun some of the top elite defensive ends? Yes. Maybe in straight line, is he going to outrun, a 20-year-old guy coming straight out the league? Maybe not, or straight out college, maybe not, but he still is fast, athletic. He can make plays happen. He's, like I say, he's got a strong arm. He's got a baseball arm. And so he can definitely launch that ball really, really far while he's on the run. And I think that's what's great. What I would like to see happen if they did sign him, I would like, Russell Wilson to say, hey, listen, guys, there's never been one time of an off player around me. Not one time. And not one time, they might have tried for the draft because they did draft Paul Richardson, which was a flop in my eyes in the second round, I think. Meanwhile, like 6 picks later was Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's ridiculous because they don't have a clue what they're doing in drafting wide receivers. I really don't feel like. But it's would have the team been so much better had we had a Devontae Adams. You know what I mean? Would the Seahawks, I mean, as great as they have already been, went to the Super Bowl back to back, would they have been better? Could they be better if you drafted somebody to put around Russell versus, in my eyes, they've always drafted defense in the first round, second round, and third round, and that's something that we've always seen. I would think that Russell would kind of say, hey, listen, guys, if I'm going to make an effort to sign this deal and understand that in a couple years after I sign this deal, quarterbacks that will be lesser than I, with not a pedigree that I have. Russell Wilson is the most winning quarterback through the first, 7 years of his career, 6 years of his career, and the most winningest quarterback. I mean, that's unbelievable. So why are we even having this conversation? We're having this conversation because it seems like the Seahawks are imploding as a team. The Legion of Boom and the whole ambiance around the team from when we had our Super Bowl runs are completely not the same team. And now we're thinking the Seahawks might not do this deal just because we let Sherman go, we let Earl Thomas go. But I really feel like we should get the deal done. Russell Wilson is what I actually make note of. I follow a couple New York sports people, and there's kind of two theories that a lot of people are talking about in New York sports for this next upcoming season. The whole suck for luck craze back in the day for the Indianapolis Colts. So one of it is suck for Tua, because Tua's fantastic and he's going to be coming out of the league next year. And, if the Giants decide to kind of parlay all of their picks this year for offense or defense, and then next year just hope that they get the number 1 pick and then they get Tua, which essentially is a taller Russell Wilson in my eyes, like the same guy. But I've also heard a lot of talk about suck for Russ. And that Russ won't get his deal this year. They won't franchise him because that's top 5 at the position money anyway, and that's going to be costing them just a heck of a lot of money. And we can franchise him if we're looking to franchise somebody else. But what do you think about the idea that the New York Giants might be making a real hard play for Russell, bringing him to the big city? Which you kind of look at Russell now, and he's a big city guy. He's a celebrity in every way, shape, or form. What do you think about the reports? Not reports, but just the kind of the musings around New York sports is that they would really like to have him. Do you think maybe they make a play for him in this year's draft, which is next week?
I think that there's probably some truth to it because it is it's not just like unwarranted, like it doesn't just show up and like people start talking about it without some type of truth to it. So I would say that they probably do make that they're probably making an attempt, but like as a Seattle fan, I'm not married to the idea of Russell Wilson is untradeable as a lot of people are. And I would just say that if you were going to entertain any type of trade scenario, that you would have to like really be okay with getting a lot back for him. Like understand his worth. Um understand his worth and then get your value out of him. So, I mean, if you're going to get the farm, multiple first round picks, another player in return, that type of situation. I mean, if Khalil Mack can generate that type of pull, then I don't see why Russell Wilson can't, because they're both kind of similar in their rank at their position league wide. You know, top 5, top 10 in their position league wide. So, just I mean, I'm sure there's like a lot of Seattle fans that have a real hard time getting used to the idea that he could potentially be traded. And I just don't think that it's as crazy as everyone thinks. So I'm just going to keep, there's some truth to it somewhere. I just don't know how serious it is. But I also believe that if we go to the draft and no movement happens with Russell Wilson, then I don't think that, I
That
don't think that
anything's going to happen.
Yeah, but I also think that he's going to be signed. He's going to sign a new contract tomorrow morning. So we'll see.
Well, that's great. And as much as we love Russ, I guess we'll see how it goes. I just it's just, it harkens back to my original idea that, it's really tough kind of who he is now as opposed to who he was, because I feel like Russell Wilson, the guy we drafted, would never have set a deadline. Hey, April 15th. And like, what? Why April 15th? I mean, that's the start of the the off season or whatever that they do in the little mini camp or preseason mini camp or whatever the heck it is. So I mean, maybe that's it, but I just he's just, I don't. It just sucks that he's even putting that kind of stipulation on it. You would think if the team wants it, if he wants it, it's gonna get done. Why do you have to put a deadline on it? And you bring the media into it. You bring, your teammates. They see, oh, hey, Russell put a deadline on the team and organization. And it's just like, and maybe he, obviously, he's like, he's for the Seahawks, but, that can't be a good look for, the guys, the young guys that are there. It's like, hey, Russell's asking for, that's just, I don't know, team morale, with that being a big issue right now in the league. And that is actually going to get us to our next thing. What the hell is Antonio Brown doing?
First of all, never trust a man with a blonde mustache.
Well, that's the truth. I have never once, I mean, Hulk Hogan, Antonio Brown. Don't trust him.
No. Hulk Hogan doesn't count because that's close enough to his actual color and it doesn't look ridiculous on him. But I think with Antonio Brown, because he dyed his mustache, it looked kind of goldish because his hair's black. It's not meant to be blonde. And so he just straight up dyed it, and he still had like kind of like chin hair or like hair on the side of his face or whatever. And the mustache was kind of goldish looking, and I just don't trust it. He's had a lot of weird haircuts over the years,
Antonio Brown is a, I was talking about, this led me in because of locker room morale, but I just don't get the vibe from Antonio Brown that anybody in his locker room is behind him. And the reason why I brought this up is, him and Juju have, had a lot of social media, I wouldn't say disagreements per se, but maybe qualms, and I just can't understand what Antonio Brown stands to gain from posting an old school message that Juju sent him before he even came to the league, asking Antonio Brown how he can get better. It's just like, it why post it? Why make it public? And first of all, he's in college. I mean, he doesn't understand where he's going. Exactly when that message, that direct message went, but Juju's a phenomenal receiver. He was better than Antonio Brown was last year, and I believe that was his second year. And in Antonio Brown's second year, it came nowhere close to Juju's production on any NFL team. And so it's pretty clear that there is potential that Juju could become a much better receiver than Antonio Brown was over the course of his career, because it's just started. But why are you burning bridges? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it doesn't seem like Juju's given back that same type of, it seems like a big FU, but it's like, I don't see that coming from Juju. So like, what do you think Antonio Brown is like trying to do with this? Is he just saying, fuck you, man, I got my money, I'm out, and the Steelers can suck my dick and we can get out of here? I mean, it's just, is he doing this?
I just think that in the wrestling business, you would say, oh, look at Antonio Brown, he just put Juju over, because he was like, all he did was show Juju being a nice guy. Like, Juju didn't do anything. All he did was send him a direct message on Instagram and said, like, hey, I think you're awesome on and off the field. You're a great person. Could you give me any hints, tricks of the trade, that type of stuff, And so it was just a weird thing for him to do. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but obviously he seems to be a little bit jealous. And then on the other side, you got Le'Veon Bell, who just signed with the New York Jets when free agency started, and he posted a conversation between him and what's that guy's name? James Conner, the running back for the Steelers now. And it was like a conversation between them saying, hey, thank you for all your help and all your advice and, just good things. The complete opposite of what Antonio Brown was trying to do. So I'm not sure what he was really trying to do. I just felt it was kind of weird that he was trying to attack him in a way, but it like didn't really work. It like played against him. And so, like
he
I
was
said,
he was trying to bring out the point that Juju was being cool. Like Juju's like, hey man, you're my mentor. And then Antonio Brown's like, haha, look at this guy. He fucking looks at me like a mentor. Well, yeah, dude. Like, actually, probably millions of little kids do as well. But you know what they don't do now? Any more of that. They do not look at you like that anymore, because you're being a douchebag. And to a guy that not only looked up to you, but has completely learned from you and surpassed you at your old age. No, but he can still play. He's going to be great this year, Antonio Brown, for sure. I mean, basically got a 3-year contract, $60 million. He's getting paid. Great for him. I had somebody message in and asked about, if we were to trade Russell Wilson, we would want to get somebody proven in return. Maybe not the idea of trading him for a draft pick or a younger superstar, but want somebody proven in return. And I've got a scenario. The Oakland Raiders have pick 1.04 and have statistically drafted low or high, meaning that they sucked recently.
That's how you draft high, after all.
Yeah, right. And they, I think they had the 14th pick last year. I think they got the 4th pick this year. What if we trade Russell Wilson to the Oakland Raiders for pick 1.04, next year's first round, this year's first and second round, next year's first round, and Derek Carr? So we get back a capable quarterback that we don't have to completely suck with, because in my eyes, I really do like Derek Carr. I don't know why, maybe the last couple of years have been bad for him, but I really think he is a capable quarterback. What do you would think about a first and a second this year, next year's first, and Derek Carr for Russell Wilson? Is that fair? I mean, do you like that? Do you hate it? throw it up against a wall, see if it sticks? What do
Well,
you got?
I don't necessarily like it, mostly because I don't like Derek Carr. The draft picks I like. I like the way that works out, 2 first rounds and a second round. I just don't I don't like Derek Carr, but if it's a situation where you're like, "Oh yeah, we're committing to the run completely," what you really need is a game manager back there. You don't need someone who's elite level like Russell Wilson. So, um, if they are kind of sticking to that formula and that idea, then I would not be against that trade that much. I don't care for Derek Carr.
At all? Like, at
Uh,
all?
I mean, I'd take him over certain people, but to me, I'm just like, oh, he's nothing special, you know? And that's just kind of how I view it.
I mean, I don't know that he's special, but I think that he's young. He's able-bodied, and I think that if we wanted somebody like Tua, we could then put ourselves in place to get him ourselves, which is essentially a very similar quarterback like Russell, but then you're able to go the next, 10, 12 years with somebody that's tall out for a little bit better. Also, why can't we win with a Derek Carr, or why couldn't we just be fine with him, or maybe be bad for 1 year and then all of a sudden we get Tua, or we decide that we're going to take the picks this year. We take 1.04, and then I think the Seahawks have the 18th pick, and then we go ahead and combo both those picks for something great. Or we go ahead and we take 1.04 and 1.18, and we move up in this year's draft and we go and get Kyler Murray. I don't think the Cardinals would ever do that because we're in the division. But I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible, really, especially in this year's draft. I mean, the Cardinals, as much as they might love Kyler Murray, there's a couple backs in the draft where they already have Rosen. Maybe they've done all this work on Kyler Murray and have gotten the idea that they want to play for Kyler Murray at the 101. And just for somebody to think, man, I can't believe they're going to go and get Kyler Murray when they already have Rosen. And really, they want Rosen, but what they've done is they've played possum the entire time. And then, they've made people think that they're going to get Kyler, and then they go up and they trade the pick, for fucking everybody's bread and water in a city, everything they need for lifeblood, to be able to, just say, hey, we worked you guys. We worked all of you, and we're the best, front office, and we got a king's ransom for Kyler Murray when we were never going to pick him anyway. There's just a lot that you could do with that, but I think that the Raiders would come out ahead. They go from a very young lineup to now a very veteran lineup, a lineup that you can sell jerseys and you can put butts in the seats and you can go to Vegas and be successful by selling merch and all that stuff, and keeping season tickets sold, and I 100% think that there's a possibility with that, because I think that Mike Mayock loves veterans, and so does John Gruden. I mean, look at John Gruden. He loves him some Russell Wilson, and
Yeah.
and that's 100% a definite. Do you have anything lastly to say just on this? You're just sticking with the idea that we're going to see that the trade, or not the trade, the contract comes through tomorrow morning.
Yeah, the only thing I would say with that trade scenario is that like what you said, like what if we suck for a year, or what if we have Derek Carr this year and then we suck next year or something like that. Um, but it's just a situation where I would just say that if we did pull a trade and we ended up with Derek Carr, I just wouldn't want it to be where Derek Carr is like our answer at QB for like the foreseeable future. I would want to see some type of movement after that. Like, oh, okay, we're not going to be good for a couple years, and then and then we're going to plan on getting that Lawrence kid from Clemson or something like that, depending on how the draft picks shaped up and stuff. But I think the Giants are going to be bad for quite a while. I think there's a lot of people who aren't fans of the Seahawks and are fans of other teams that would like to see Russell Wilson leave because they're tired of seeing the Seahawks. But I just had a friend of mine that's a Cowboys fan. He said he thinks Russell Wilson will leave. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's one of those things that that is just going to have to play itself out. But I honestly think we'll see a contract tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, when I wake up, I'm sure we'll start hearing some rumblings about something. So
Interesting. All right, the next thing I had on the list: coaches can now challenge pass interference calls. Are you for that? Against it? I'm so surprised that I see a ton of people against the ability to call or throw the red flag out there and challenge a pass interference call. I can't believe that take, but what side are you on?
I'm like kind of like 50-50 on it. Like I really like the idea in the case of the Saints last year in the NFC Championship game. The Rams aren't in the Super Bowl if they had that ability to challenge, because it was like obvious, but the ref missed it for whatever reason. I'm not with it if we're talking like if the Jets are playing the Bills or something and you're like, God, this game is like it's 12-9 and it's nothing but field goals. Like I don't care about a pass interference call at that point. Like neither one of you are making the playoffs. This game is boring to death. Like it's one of those situations. That's the time when it would annoy me. But I would say that I'm for it. I think it improves the game. I would want it to be like, you know how in the NFL, if you challenge and you win your challenge, you're rewarded another challenge as long as you win that first one. If it's a situation like that, I'm for it. I just don't want coaches just to have the ability to challenge at any given moment with anything. And so if it's a situation where they are awarded the challenge for being successful with the first one, then I'm down. I just don't want it to be like overkill, and there's a little bit of strategy with it. It makes you say like, oh, should I challenge this play? Because if I lose this challenge, then I won't be able to challenge again and stuff like that. I like that idea. So what about you?
Yeah, I mean, every time, see, here's the thing, like that Jets game 12-9 is not boring to me. My whole thing is like fantasy football. I'm such a big fantasy football player that every single game is now interesting to me to some degree, because I either have, somebody that I shouldn't be starting from the Jets offense on my freaking the
Right.
week, Quincy Enunwa or a freaking Jermaine Curse or some shit like that. So I'm tuned into as much games as I possibly can be. And I don't care that the game lasts an extra 5 minutes in a commercial because of the fucking, PI challenge. Here's what I'm at. The games that it does matter in, or the games you would think that it does matter in, it matters. Okay. Like the integrity of the game, like it's a clear, blatant pass interference call. You should be able to say, hey, listen, you fucked me. Okay, because yeah, human eyes can't see it, and it's the same thing. Now, the only thing that I have negative against it is, okay, so now you're allowing the NFL to challenge PI calls. What about in baseball, where you have that little like batter's box thing, that everybody in the TV, watching the TV promotion or program get to see that was clearly a ball, but you called it a strike, and it's like, we're just supposed to let you, and they say, that tears down the human aspect of the game. And so I get that a little bit, because, that's not how the game was ever designed to be played. But then again, the field goal post used to be at the front of the end zone, not the back.
Right.
They used to play in fucking pigskin and not helmets or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's evolved now. It's to the point where you need to be able to, I'm sorry the game goes longer. I don't care. Anything that I can do to get that much more football that I get to watch, like, I want it, because right now I don't get any football at all, and I just absolutely hate it. So I don't care. I just want, and here's a big deal. Again, we go to fantasy football. If that's an 80-yard bomb to my guy and he gets blatantly fouled, okay, then and it's missed, then I want the coach to be able to say, hey, listen, I want to run that back. It was actually a PI, put him closer so that my guy now has the ability to have redemption and get the touchdown. Because guys in the NFL do that. You see it all the time, like with running backs, they get the 60-yard run and they get them from the 20 all the way down to wherever 60 yards is from the 20. And then they say, okay, or maybe they get tackled on the 2. Or that ball on the 2-yard line. They're going to give it right back to the guy that got him all the way down there.
Right.
And so I can just see a lot of great fantasy football implications that come from this, but I just think the integrity of the game has to be solidified. If you can challenge PI calls that were clearly wrongly called on the field, then good. These guys get paid a lot of money. People spend a lot of money to watch the games. I can tell you one thing. I'm obviously a Seahawks fan. If you're a Packers fan and you're watching that game where Golden Tate just shoves the dude to catch that ball at the very, end of the game winner, you would be upset, and you're probably still talking about it today. You'll probably talk about it for the rest of your life. Did you see that Golden Tate just threw that guy, just basically shoved that dude, offensive PI, in order to catch that ball, but it's unreviewable. What do you do? Just it's easy, and it should be able to be reviewed in my honest opinion. Let's get the game to where if the freaking offense is going to win out or the defense is going to win out, let them win out. Let the talent win out. That's 100% what I think should happen.
Okay. Let's end that conversation and let's go to the next thing that I have written down here, which is Vikings wide receiver Adam Thielen, undrafted receiver, signs a 4-year, $64 million contract, $35 million guaranteed. Only had 9 touchdowns last year. Is he overpaid, underpaid, and where do you rank him in the grand scheme of receivers when we talk about top 10 or top 20? Where do you put him?
Only had 9 touchdowns. Well, he only had like 7 games of 100 yards straight, which has never been done. I mean, based off that alone, he deserves to get paid next year.
Okay, so I say only because that's the only criticism they could heave his way for this. They could say, oh, well, he only had 9 touchdowns. I mean, if you leave it up to anybody, someone's always going to find a criticism. So this is their one criticism they could have. They can't say anything else. What are they going to say? Oh, he's white. That's the only other thing they could say that could work against him, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's sad that works against an athletic specimen, as Adam Thielen is. But he's a great guy. You don't see him causing a problem in the locker room like Antonio Brown is. I bet you $1 million, which my wife always gets because every time I think I'm right, I bet $1 million on it as if I have that. But I will be willing to bet you a lot of money that Laquan Treadwell is likely going to Adam Thielen more than he's going to any other receiver in that locker room. Hey, what can I do? How can I be better here? Blah, 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 blah. Adam Thielen seems like the type of guy that's a complete morale boosting player in the locker room. He's
totally approachable.
Great guy. Good story. He's an A1 receiver in the league. I mean, when you talk about guys that you want to have on your team going forward. I mean, Adam Thielen's got to be in the competition for, your top 32 guys. Every team's got one star receiver or would like to have one star receiver. Adam Thielen's got to be amongst the top 32 receivers to be their team's number one receiver. So does he deserve to get paid? 100%. And I don't think the contract's unfair. It was 4 years, $60 million?
$64 million for over 4 years, 35 guaranteed.
So what's 60 divided by 4? I don't know that number off the top of my head.
15.
Is that right? Yeah, that seems right. Yeah. 15 mil. So he's getting paid $5 million less than Antonio Brown, essentially. And he's probably $5 million more than a Doug Baldwin. So in my eyes, that's a fair contract. You know what I mean? He's better than Golden Tate. He's younger, I believe.
He
and is. Sterling Shepard. So do this. While I'm talking here, I want you to look up Sterling Shepard's contract that he just got, and out to that, because that would be a really good comparison. Sterling Shepard, a number 2 wide receiver, essentially on his team. He's now became a number 1 wide receiver. But what's really unique about Sterling Shepard is through the beginning of his career, he's actually on pace with Stephon Diggs for production. Diggs being the other receiver on Adam Thielen's team would be a nice, comp just to see what the contract looks like in comparison. Have you been able to pull that up yet?
Yeah, I got it right here. No, you're good. According to Spotrac, which is a very reliable source, his contract is 4 years, $41 million, no signing bonus, and his average per year is $10.2 million.
So there you go. He's $5 million. He's worth $5 million more than a Sterling Shepard, who is a number 1 receiver on the Giants team. Yes, the Giants just lost Odell. How to let him to even $10 million where Funchess just got 13, I think. And would you rather have Sterling Shepard on your team or Devin Funchess, leaving the Panthers as a tight end essentially in the league, and then now low agility scores, not very fast in comparison to Sterling Shepard. Sterling Shepard had a lot better draft capital. I don't know. They're probably pretty similar in draft capital, but I don't know. I'd rather have Sterling Shepard for $10 million. I mean, I feel like that's a great signing. Also, I feel like this is a great signing for Adam Thielen. He's a veteran. He's a great locker room presence. And if the Giants could have signed Adam Thielen for that same amount of money, they would have done it 100%. Like I said, I just think that's a great deal. He's a great guy, a great receiver.
It's just cool that he got signed to a contract like that. Number one, it's cool because you're talking about his overall value in that contract is $64 million. And then the guaranteed is 35. That's over half of what you make is guaranteed. That's a good thing. The second thing that's good is he played high school football in Minnesota. He went to college in Minnesota, was undrafted, essentially walked on to the Vikings and made their team, was a special teamer his first year, and then they realized how good he is, and he just worked his way up, and look at him now. He's a Pro Bowl receiver getting pretty good money. So
yeah, we just had a commenter just come in, so thank you for listening. He just said, do you think AB is a cancer for the Raiders? We just touched on that. Yes, 100%. I mean, obviously he's a cancer, but here's the thing, man. A brand new team, essentially, because next year they'll be going to Las Vegas, I believe. He's going to sell jerseys. He's going to put, eyeballs in the seats. He's going to put eyeballs on the TV. And I don't think that John Gruden and Mike don't, team who we just gutted our team. We had Khalil Mack. We had Amari Cooper. We had star power. We gutted our team. We might not have been better for it, but we signed AB. AB is going to put eyes on that team. And that's probably for the better compared to what kind of eyes were on the team last year, right?
For sure. I think that I think that what's going to be interesting kind of down the stretch is how Antonio Brown acts when things don't go his way. Because his time on the Steelers, they've been consistently good. You know, they've had Le'Veon Bell and they've had some good defensive players, and they've had Ben Roethlisberger. You know, is considered a top 5 to 8 quarterback in the league, and so you know they've been consistently good. They've been to playoffs. They've been to the AFC Championship game. So if things don't go well for him in Oakland or Las Vegas or whatever the heck they are now. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I mean, personally, I like Antonio Brown's game. I think he's fantastic, but I also think that he needs the right people in his ear telling him, "Hey, don't be childish here. Don't be ridiculous. Don't say these things." There's no one holding him accountable. And so I think with the John Gruden, the Mike Mayock, they're both old school football minds. Some of those things will change and he'll have a rude awakening. So we'll see what happens.
That same commenter just said, I think you guys will give up Russell Wilson again. We actually led the whole cast with that. Michael on the other end thinks we're going to wake up to a contract signing tomorrow morning. I think the deal is going to get done, but I'm actually kind of I hate that I'm going to go on record and say that I kind of want us to trade him. I've seen, Earl and Sherman come down to just where, hey, we let him play out, deal with it, nothing for it, when we could have traded him a year before that and had all this, extra capital. And instead we're going into this draft. I believe the Seahawks are going into this draft with only 4 picks in the entire draft because of the Dwayne Brown trade, all that stuff. So, it doesn't matter. We'll have to figure it out. I think if the Seahawks are going to make a move, they're going to make a move on him during the draft. And I think if they make the move to trade Russell Wilson, it could potentially be the biggest blunder in Seahawks history, or could end up being something great. Who knows? My next thing that I want to he said you guys are rebuilding. Yes, we are. I mean, obviously we are. It seems like almost every team's rebuilding right now. I mean,
it's funny to say also, because it's like, oh, you guys are supposed, they're like, last year they were like, oh, you guys are rebuilding. A lot of people picked us to have 4 wins. What do you know? We end up in the playoffs. So we're the only team that could still be competitive and rebuild at the same time. And so that's always just like something interesting, because rebuilding has such a negative connotation to it that they're like, oh, you're supposed to be terrible when you rebuild. But it's also been said that you don't rebuild if you have a franchise quarterback. If you have a franchise quarterback, you're not rebuilding. You're what did Pete Carroll call it? Retooling. Yeah.
I don't know.
So
my next thing that I had on my docket was pretty interesting. This is something that I've kind of asked, but I don't feel like anybody even has, like, they don't know. I mean, nobody knows, right? Because we just don't. But how do you think free agency goes? Like, obviously people, like, when they make the first week or so of the free agency, the guys like Tyrann Mathieu, guys that people know and love, they already know, like, these guys are worth the money, we're going to pay that money, whatever it is. But how do you think it goes in the week 3, right? Where I read this that guy's still commenting. He's a 49ers fan, though. Good for him. The 49ers have been rebuilding for quite a long time. So Dante Pettis might be good this year. We'll have to find out. If Garoppolo can stay healthy, then, it might be good. But Kittle was able to perform with a garbage quarterback, so I would think that it would be better. And Garoppolo's on my dynasty team, so FTW. But here's the thing. Robert Quinn, right? We know Robert Quinn, right? He's like a really good defensive end. Okay. In my eyes, he's older. He's definitely older, but Robert Quinn's a really, really good defensive end. I read a story. It's like, hey, Robert Quinn, he came in for a free agent workout. He left without a contract. So in my eyes, it's like, okay, there's only 2 ways that it could have gone. Either the workout didn't go well, or Robert Quinn wants too much money, or that specifically wasn't willing in what he wanted, right? But how do you think that free agent interaction went? Do you think that they bring Robert Quinn in for a workout and they literally put him on the other side of their star left or their best left tackle and say, Robert, beat my left tackle. Do you think that's what they do when they bring dudes in for free agent workouts? Or do you think that it's just purely like combine type of speed and agility, things, just as, the same thing that they like, when they look at rookies, to try to see if they're going to be good in the NFL? Do you think they work them out in the same way, or do you think they honestly bring out their left tackle that's starting and say, hey, beat my left tackle right now? Like, what do you think?
If it's me, it's different because it's like it depends what team you're going to visit or you're working out for. One of the things that I would say is I would just say, hey, I want to see you move, like run these sprints, do these cone drills, things like that. But then I would also want to see you go against someone live, because it's different when someone's pushing against you or you got to beat a man one-on-one. Like, how strong are you? How quick are you? How quick is your first step? What are your power moves or spin moves or agility moves like? Like, I want to see you do those things. I want to see you be able to go inside and outside. I want to see you get your hands up. There's a bunch of different things that I would want to see. As far as league wide, I feel like a lot of teams have enough tape on Robert Quinn now. He's been in the league for a little while, but I still think he's very effective. He signed with the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't remember, honestly.
I think that he did, because he was with he was on the Rams D line with Aaron Donald and all those guys, right?
Yeah, but then he went to Miami. I think he went to Miami, right?
So they actually they traded for him. It wasn't
Miami did.
Yeah. No, Miami and Dallas conducted a trade. He wasn't a free agent.
I think Miami did. I don't fucking know. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter. I'm just talking about free agent workouts.
Yeah.
Like, do we think that they legit put them up against like their starting left tackle or their starting right tackle?
I would say with D lineman, yes, because you need to see more than just like looking good, right? But with receiver, you could just see them run routes and run and catch the ball in different scenarios and things like that. And I think that's good enough. But yeah, I think it's probably a little of both, not one side or the other as much as people might think.
Okay, you're right. Okay, so I'm reading something here. Dolphins trade Robert Quinn to Cowboys. So yeah, just in general, I mean, I just feel like there's a lot of really good free agents that are always left into that like third week kind of a thing, and I just feel like it's probably about money. Like, in my eyes, like, it's probably about where you come down, you can beat my right tackle, but you obviously want $3 or $4 million more because your name's Robert Quinn, rather than some rookie who has a very similar skill set, but they want no money at all.
Right. I would just, I would just say that, you're just in a situation where the NFL is a company or a business that you have to continuously prove your worth every day. With the way that the salary cap goes up and the way that positions live and die, and by that I mean running backs, you used to be able to say, oh, I want $20 million a year, but now if a running back asks for $20 million a year, you'd be like, what the heck? This guy's smoking something, like you're not paying your running back $20 million a year. They're just not as valuable as they used to be. So it's a little bit different.
How crazy is that? That was actually the last thing that I had on my list. And then you want to talk about what we can end it with that. But my last thing I had was like, man, how can you pay wide receivers $20 million a year and not pay the dude you're going to give the ball to more often? Not even half of that. Like, it seems like $10 million a year for a running back is like, whew, you better be the best running back to ever live. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, why do you not give these? I understand short shelf life, but really the problem with running backs is that their rookie deal is hurting them. Like, when you get drafted as a running back, ideally your best production is going to come from like 22 to 26 years old, right? Or maybe 22 to 28 years old. But half of that time you're on your rookie deal. for a lot of these running backs. And it's just like, I feel like the running backs are getting kind of shafted because these guys take most beating. They also, in my eyes, change the game the most. Sure, like Odell Beckham can run a 9 route straight down the field and he can beat your corner, and every time you can launch it to him, but it just doesn't happen that way. But yet what does happen is you hand the ball off on first and second down, and even third down. If if your running back has got you to, 3rd and 3, you're going to hand it off again. Todd Gurley, in my eyes, or maybe not Todd Gurley because he's now but that's the thing. He's getting injured, because they're giving him the ball so much and he's taking such a pounding, and he's having to deal with, getting blasted by dudes that are 265 as a middle linebacker. Every freaking time they touch the ball, they have the potential to get completely shook and blasted by these guys, versus your wide receivers ideally only getting took by the corner or the deep safety that's probably, weighs just as much as them. It's incredible that the running backs are sub to this type of like league rules as far as contracts as everybody else, when realistically running backs need to band together and start their own freaking commission with each other and say, listen, guys, like, I know the reason why rookie deals are what they are. Rookie deals are what they are because Von Miller got $50 million guaranteed, or whatever, when he was a rookie. Matt Stafford, Sam Bradford, and teams were like, man, we are just guaranteeing all this money to these rookies. The problem was you were guaranteeing the money to like the top 10 guys when, yeah, like a lot of these guys might bust out, or Sam Bradford might be the richest, wackest quarterback in the league, but it's like, dude, that's on you guys. Like, you can sign, okay, now the collective bargaining agreement or whatever the fuck it is, like, now these the number one pick gets 30 million and just kind of scales down from there or whatever. And that's all great. That saves the team. But what it does is it really screws running backs. Unless the running backs are getting drafted in the first 10 picks, which it doesn't really happen anymore, even though Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, and Todd Gurley all happen in the first 10
you
picks.
have to be a special talent to get drafted that high as a running back. You have to be really
exactly
special.
You have to be a worldwide talent, and yet the worldwide talent of running backs is actually becoming the only reason why their team wins football games, it seems like. Take Ezekiel Elliott out of the Cowboys, and do they even come any close? Take Gurley off of the Rams, and do they come close? Like, no, they don't. But yet these guys have to play under their rookie deals when they're completely worth $20 million on their team, like AB is. Sorry, I'm getting emotional about this because it's ridiculous. Like, and then not only that, but then they're getting pushed to the second or third round just because they would rather draft a defense end or a cornerback. But yet you could draft a running back in the third round, a guy that's going to be legit the reason why your team is good, and he will be getting paid pennies on the dollar. And then for his prime of his life, he will be in his rookie contract getting paid pennies on the dollar, and then he gets fucking chewed up and spit out of your rookie deal because after he's 26 or 27 years old, nobody wants to pay him $10 million a year, which is half of what Antonio Brown gets at 30 years old. It's ridiculous to me.
So I'm kind of like, I get what you're saying, but I guess I'm a little bit on the other side of it. And by that, I mean, you witnessed a Cowboys team a few years ago that had the best offensive line in the entire game. And they were able to take Darren McFadden. I believe it was Darren McFadden. I may be wrong, but they took a running back that had no business being the starter in Dallas and turning him into a 1,000-yard back. So I think that's where receivers and running backs are different, because a receiver only relies on the quarterback making a somewhat decent throw or their athletic ability to be able to beat a guy one-on-one or something like that. Whereas a running back, if the offensive line is terrible, and we've witnessed this in Seattle, Alex Collins was on the team, and look at him on the Ravens. He's pretty good on the Ravens. And you witness the guy that used to be the starter in Kansas City, Stephen Ware, he was good with Kansas City, and he was on the Seahawks. And like
Spencer Ware.
or Spencer Ware, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't know who Stephen Ware is.
Yeah, but really, Damian Williams is like the exact reason of this. You know, he gets basically fucked on the depth chart, and he's good. You know, he comes to Kansas City, all this BS happens. He has the game ball in his hands now where it really excels, you know, and he's probably getting paid nothing. And as much as that team needed him to come through for the greatness of that team last year, he's going to get nothing, and he's not going to be anything. And
Right.
maybe he will. It's just he can be, but nobody gives a shit to pay the guy, you know? And so, like, man, how many years can you take just getting crushed where it's like, hey, man, I've already made, you know, $3 million in my career. It's like, damn, if you can't take $3 million and live off $3 million the rest of your life versus potentially having CTE at 35, you know, it's like, yeah, it's a great decision. Hey, Gronk, you're one of the great ones. Let's leave at 30 years old and peace out and say, listen, I'm one of the richest guys I've ever known. You know,
Right.
I got to go, you know, and so great. I really dislike how running backs like Saquon Barkley, as great of a generational talent is, he will have to play to 32 years old to get any money out of the league. When right now he should be getting, Saquon Barkley should be getting paid $25 million a year from the Giants.
Oh, he's incredible. He is incredible. I love Saquon Barkley. He's like probably my favorite running back in the league to watch, just because he could do it all. He could do the power running. He could do all the agility. He could catch the passes, all that stuff. But I agree with you. You have to pay a guy when you see everything that he brings to the table. You have to pay a guy. And especially now when the running back position has evolved so much that teams don't even want to sign a guy if he's like your traditional running back that is just your Adrian Peterson. You're just running, you're just hitting the holes and your power, and you have some speed and stuff, but you don't catch the ball at all. Teams aren't wanting to sign guys like that anymore. They only want to sign guys who do it all. If you don't do it all, your value isn't as much as it should be.
If you can't hit the holes, receive, block, do absolutely everything for the team. Meanwhile, X receiver getting paid 14 times more than you are, can't block or do anything but run down the field fast, and he's getting way more money than you are. It's just unbelievable.
Right. Okay. So I have two quick things before we end here tonight. I just wanted your reaction on both of them real quick. The first one is Chris Hogan, the receiver from the Patriots, signs a 1-year deal with the Carolina Panthers. What do you think about that?
Yep. It's a better signing for what money he got than to keep Funchess for the money he got.
Right.
So I think, I don't remember the deal, but they got him for like, you know, nothing in comparison to what they would have had to sign Funchess.
Right. It's a 1-year contract. You're not paying a receiver like a $6-8 million for 1 year. I don't know what they paid him, but I'm just saying that they're not throwing out a bunch of money for 1 year. I think it's kind of like a prove it deal. They're like, oh, if you work in our system and you're good and all that stuff, then maybe we'll talk long term after that. But the other thing is what's his name? Reuben Foster went to he used to be
Redskins.
Yeah, he's on the Redskins. It was just announced that he's not going to get fined. And for those of you that don't know, he was accused of, I believe, either rape or domestic violence, something along those lines, falsely accused. There were some people who kind of deliberately spoke out against it because the woman had a shady past. But Matt, how do you feel?
No, he wasn't going to be suspended. He got fined 2 game checks.
Oh,
but that was it. Yeah. So essentially the 49ers like let him go because his whatever, you know, false accuser or whatever it was. And then the Redskins like, fuck it, we'll take him. Just like the Seahawks took Michael Kendricks for that insider trading thing. You know what I mean? Or Kareem Hunt. is taken right now by the Browns, and we don't know what'll happen with him. But shoot, if Kansas City lets Kareem Hunt go and all that happens is a 1-game suspension in the end, it's like, well, fuck, the Browns win in that.
No, Kareem Hunt they already announced that I believe he's getting 6 games.
Okay, but either way, I mean, 6 games is nothing. Like I'll take one of the best running backs in the NFL for a 6-game suspension. And yeah, I mean, these guys are what they are. You know, they make the NFL look bad. Yeah, the people could be better people, but fuck, man, you make a shit ton of money off these guys and exploiting every bit of their life through me, not through social media, exactly, but you make a ton of money just by selling this guy's jersey, just by putting butts in the seats. Like, you make millions of dollars more by having Reuben Foster on your defense than you do by, the backlash it is from signing a Reuben Foster or making sure Kareem Hunt's on your team. The guys like Tyreek Hill or the guys like Martavis Bryant, which are repeat offenders, to the 9, I can understand, like, hey, that guy has no business in the NFL. Great. I understand your take on that. But, these guys are who they are. Hopefully they can be better. I hate bringing up marijuana because this is not part of this, but it's like, man, if they want to smoke weed, just like, okay, dude, you're out. Just go smoke weed. That's fine. Like, it's not a big deal.
That was part of the thing with Foster. Like, last season, he had been suspended for the first 2 games of the season because of marijuana stuff. I just looked it up, but yeah, it was domestic violence. Accused of domestic violence, was arrested for it. And then in January, the prosecutor dropped all the charges. So the NFL fined him his checks or whatever, but he's not being suspended by the NFL at all. And it doesn't look like there's going to be any legal charges involved in that case. So he's in the clear. And, it's funny because he's a pretty good talent, and the 49ers just flat out released him, and the Redskins picked him up. So you got to say that's a win for the Redskins. That's a heck of a pickup.
That's what I'm saying. I just feel like if I ran an NFL team, why would I not take Kareem Hunt, Reuben Foster, Martavis Bryant, all these guys? Why would Justin Blackmon from back in the day? Why wouldn't I take all these guys?
Yeah.
If I can get them for nothing, take their fucking, 6-week suspension, and then be able to listen, dude, like, on the list, so I can't pay you like what you were gonna get paid, So good, great. They got Nick Chubb, dude. They got Nick Chubb. They don't even need Kareem Hunt. So what you're trying to tell me is you can split the carries evenly between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Get the fuck out of here. That's the best backfield in the whole entire NFL. Nobody's gonna stop those guys.
Right.
Like,
That's
the Browns
crazy.
are going to the Super Bowl this year. 100%. 100%. Not 100%. Not really.
Not 100%.
Not 100%. But Baker, it's so crazy. Okay, we got to end this. But Baker it's so crazy that they drafted Baker after literally drafting like his fucking twin brother, Johnny Manziel. And
Right.
like, not only did Johnny Manziel flop, but he flopped so bad and so hard. They got to have some serious nuts in that organization to say, listen, Baker Mayfield is like Manziel's cut. You know what I mean? And he is the exact same dude. It's like they look and play like almost like the same player. It's so crazy that they went ahead and did that. And Baker Mayfield is so phenomenal. So good for them for sticking it to the grindstone. I'm gonna let you go ahead and have your sign off.
Okay, so I'm gonna say last thing. We don't really talk about this a whole lot, but Tiger Woods won the Masters today. I don't know how much you care about that, but that's pretty dope.
Tiger Woods, y'all.
Yeah, so that's awesome because he's 43 years old. Everyone knows he kind of had a checkered past with all of his mistresses and things of that nature. So
hey, Tiger's a legend in the frat scene.
Yeah, for sure. But it's also good to see a redemption story. You don't typically get to see a redemption story like that a whole lot. It's his first major, and what did they say, since 2008? So 11 years. So, I mean, that's a big deal, dude. And he won. I can't remember what the purse was today, but I think it was something like $11 million or whatever for playing golf. That's awesome. I'm
Yeah, and
down
then
for that.
one dude put an $80,000 bet on Tiger, won 1.19 million, like literally bankrupted the betting agency. So good for you, because I would never put $80,000 on Tiger Woods. But here's the thing. I would maybe if I had already won a couple cool $1 million and all I was doing was just, that's the thing about fantasy sports, man. It's fucking phenomenal with betting and daily fantasy and being able to do this, because you can win big, and it's cool. Everybody should be able to do it, but
Right. Okay. Well, I guess that's it for tonight. We're going to hop on later this week, but for right now, we're out.
all right, everybody. This was the Flex Network.
This is the Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah. Flex on the G. Flex.